The front struts, because the front right has bled itself all over the wheel. The wheel has already been cleaned up a lot from all the fluid from the shock, where the piston goes into the strut from right around here. So we're gonna have to replace it. Normally you replace them together. We're gonna do a couple things. So there is a clip that holds the brake line. It's gonna have to be pulled out because the strut itself, this thing is welded to it, this bracket. So this is going to come, just pull out. There's a little slot for the screwdriver, and this is just going to pull out and separate. There's a pinch bolt right there, probably a 17 millimeter. It's going to have to be removed. Hopefully this knuckle will separate easily from the strut. I did spray this down, and then this is the ABS sensor that we're going to have to remove this bracket. And then there is a 14 or 15 also that's holding the end link for the sway bar attached to the strut. And there are 3 bolts holding the strut to the top, which are right there. So these 3. And then we'll use a spring compressor to actually remove the spring, remove the center nut. Never remove that center nut unless you have the tension off the spring, because there's a lot of force there. Alright, so this pinch bolt was a 17. Had to put a breaker bar on it. This one is a 14 and 5 mil hex. So this thing is off, and here is the brace that was here. I did disconnect the end of the ABS sensor, just because if this knuckle kind of falls down, it can pull the wire, which I don't want happening. This is the end link for the sway bar, the pinch bolt. Like I said, this is a 17. It's got thread locker on it. The next trick here is to basically try to separate these, or this from this. I think if you just kind of knock it down with a hammer, it should come loose. Alright, I've been banging on it with this 16-ounce hammer, probably 20 minutes or so. It's finally come out. The recommendation is to use a much bigger hammer. 4, 5, 6, 7 pounds. It'll be a lot quicker. I'm gonna go loosen up the top nuts to actually drop the whole strut, and then we'll start taking the strut apart. So when the bottom of the strut is out, you loosen up the 3 nuts that are holding it here. The strut drops down, and this is the part where the top of the strut. So before taking off this nut, the reason I need to take off that nut is I need to take off this mount. I'm going to reuse the spring, because the struts that I got are just replacement, basically shock bodies. So I need to reuse the spring, the boot, potentially some rubber pieces for the top and the bottom of the spring. So I got the spring compressor here. I'm evenly trying to compress these coils on each side. It's really awesome. The spring compressor has a little 1/2-inch adapter, so I can just use my ratchet. Otherwise it's a 22 mil, and I don't have a socket that's 22. But anyway, I'm gonna have to just basically compress the spring, take off the tension off of this top mount, remove that nut. This will come off, and then the spring can slide off. So the new KYB, this side, the old one. This is the not the one that blew. This is the driver's side, but you can see definitely, you know, as I compress them, the old one is definitely easier to compress, and then this one springs right back up, and this old one is just like sitting there. So the shape of this, not symmetric, right? Two straight sides, one curved side. It's going to go into the car like this. This is the passenger side. It's going to go up and like this, so the curved side is kind of toward the back of the car. I do want to put the bump stop back in, reuse this, and this boot. So this is going to go in. Might take a little bit of force. There you go. This seat's right here. Gonna go into the spring. Wiggle it around. Okay. Alright. And then we have to fit it into the hole. And there we go. And then we put the nut on. Oh, this is heavy. So now to tighten this, there's an Allen key inside there, and this maybe 19. So I'm gonna hold the shaft while rotating the nut to tighten this. Okay, there we go. Alright, Strut is all put together. I'm gonna start putting it into the car. So this little thing right here goes toward the middle of the car, and there's like a little slot that it slides into. So the way you know that it's gone far enough is that this hole lines up with a pinch bolt hole. So I'm gonna get the top up first, basically reverse the removal, get the top secured first, and then slide the knuckle under. Hopefully I can use the jack to really like push it on, because I've been banging on that thing to take it off for literally 20 minutes per side because my hammer is so light, but pushing it back up should hopefully be easier. So this thing's in. There's a lot of work. So I've been pushing on it with a jack from underneath. What that actually does is it actually rotates this knuckle this way. So obviously if it has to go into, you know, instead of going perpendicular, this edge kind of digs into the strut. So what I had to do is I actually have a crowbar, and I had to just keep like prying the opening there on the back while jacking it up, spraying it with a little lubricant. Finally the hole for the pinch bolt is lined up, so I'm going to put that in. I'm going to use some blue Loctite like it came with. I'm going to clean this up a little bit, tighten this side up, I'll put the brake line back, the ABS sensor. This thing got bent, you can tell from me banging on this knuckle with a hammer. Alright, update on the passenger side. So this thing is all basically done. The pinch bolt, again 17 millimeter. Torque on it is about 50 foot-pounds. The end link nut for the sway bar, 14 millimeter. Torque on it is about 35 to 40. This clip for the brake line just comes in, this thing pops back into a little groove, and then the ABS sensor just clips back in. And then the top three nuts here are 14 millimeter. Torque on them is about 20 foot-pounds. Alright, now I'm going to go back to the driver's side and do the same thing, finish that up. Part number for KYBs.